Hey, everybody, welcome to New Answers Podcast. I'm Gwen Flynn. You know by now that this is a community of everyday folks who are sharing solutions to life challenges based on our own personal experience. We have been talking for a number of these videos about spirituality, and we are going to continue that conversation today we see spirituality as a means of finding solutions to life's challenges, and it is about making a connection to the divine invisible, to the higher power, whatever name you give it. And we think that making that connection leads you to God conscious guidance, God centered solutions to whatever comes your way. And we've been talking for a number of weeks now about how spirituality shows up in our lives. And then, we've gone off on different topics. Today, we're talking, I guess we're going to revisit the downloads topic, but in a different way. So, Tiffany Lee has been my partner in this odyssey that we're on about nurturing spirituality. Is what we're calling this series. And Tiffany has had experiences, spiritual experiences, that she can recall since she was little, like I think 5 or 6 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And so she has had these direct connections, and for me, it's been a little bit later, and I've had different experiences. But she's had some, what she's been calling downloads, latest downloads that she wants to share with us. And I'm excited to hear about it because she says in her downloads, the topics that come up seem to now be appearing on or coming from folks that she has been looking to as colleagues in her spiritual sort of journey, right? So the people that she's been seeing online have been talking about the same things that she has downloaded. So let's hear from Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany.
Gwen.
I'm really excited to hear about these downloads and what has come up through them, and anything else you want to share with us.
Yeah. So first I want to talk about we had we had strong solar flares over the weekend, which um threw off or like made our earth resonance really, really strong. So that's interrupting with a lot of technology. So I noticed that both of our computers are beginning to like freeze, and actually a few people mentioned that their computers were not acting right. And so if there's an issue, because we had a little noise going on and mine's doing something. So this is for the audience, bear with us, but you're probably going through the same thing. And I think also these solar flares, this is part of, well, it's time to start talking about this because everyone's talking about it, but new Earth ascending, and the sun has a lot to do with this, and it's shooting off these strong solar flares. I think there's like 19 volcanoes globally being activated right now and earthquakes. So it's a lot. And I do believe that the next 2 months, June and July, are going to be really high energy, high active um, months for ascension with people and with our earth, actually, Gaia. So,
That explains a lot about my technology challenges that I've been facing. And then I have heard of volcanoes erupting. That some were dormant, but some have been kind of erupting all along, but in a very low level. But the one I'm trying to remember, it was in India that they said has gotten even more active. So
yeah, yeah.
the evidence is clear and it's everywhere.
It is. You can Google it. I've been hearing about them, and then today I was like, how many volcanoes do we have? I think the United States has four that's gone active in the last couple days. But globally I counted, and there's like 19 that are either going off or becoming active. And that's just part of the earth resonance waking up. Some are above ground, there's some are underground, and then underground earthquakes. So this is not coincidence. This is what's actually happening. So I know that we initially were going to talk about new earth, old earth, my downloads that started coming in last March, not this March, March of 2024. That we were going into kind of a ascension. Earth is going to have a new earth. And my initial downloads were basically spirit telling me about this and that old earth and the way our system is. And that's very patriarchal and like kind of heavy, dense, and dark. The way the system has been for decades. Is changing. We're going into a new earth. It's going to be more feminine. And that's why we've talked about all these things like feminine energy and the Great Awakening. People are awakening up to truth, basically, and the truth is we all are connected to source, one, the prime God, what we call him. And we're all actually not just connected, but we're all part of God. It's like the way they explain it is, let's just say God is the ocean. We're like waves in the ocean. We're like God. Like if you take a cup of the ocean water, it's made of the same thing. We're just a part of it. So every single person is that. And that's really important for people to remember, because that is the element of the fact that we are not, there's no one more special than someone else. Everybody has every element that God offers. So I'm going to talk about my downloads, but everyone's capable of the downloads. Everyone's capable of connecting. And a lot of it is just acknowledging, trusting um, this that small voice that you talk about, Gwen, trusting it, and the voice gets louder. And that's what it is. You start listening to it, you start trusting it, it gets louder, you start noticing it all around you. And then some of them are, it's more than the voice, some of it's more of a kind of like almost a takeover, or as people, a channel, like people say. So I thought my channels this week, and everything's connected. I do believe that the earth ascending and all the energy coming in, because everything's energy, was also affecting me. And therefore, because I'm open to it and because I have questions, I do integrate everything in my life now with spirit. Like, do I do this? What does this mean? My relationships, my work, everything.
Yes,
So
it's
that's
important.
my setup for the week. Your gifts open up more too. So what I noticed earlier within the last month is that um, I have developed a lot more grace for people, because I can look into their I've, their energies. I do look into people's energies, but that look has become stronger to, like, I see everyone's soul. So we have our ego, our personalities that we walk around in these earth bodies, and then we all have our soul and our spirit, and that's what's connected to source, to God. Um, and the grace comes with knowing that we're all just trying to survive, right? The best we can.
Humans, with, you know, I, I guess the terminology between us is sometimes different, but it means the same thing. We are emanations, is the term that I've heard from the spiritual practice that I've been associated with, of God, right? Um, and that we come with different, I think, different gifts um, that we are supposed to share with the rest of the world.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's like we all have these gifts because we're we are gods. We're part of God. we're emanations of God or expressions of God. So we have the access to everything. We have access to unlimited love, abundance, wisdom. And what we've discussed before is that when we aren't in alignment with God, when we're more in alignment with ego, then um, it's also phrased the mistake. We make mistakes. That can go all the way into being evil. You know what I mean? We can just call it like it is. Trump, let's look at Trump. The things that Trump is doing and the people that support Trump, they don't think they're evil. And some of us think they're evil. You know what I mean? We look at some of the things they're doing and we're like, how possibly could you be doing this to other people? You know, how can you be okay hurting people? And then there's that whole realm to someone that wouldn't hurt a fly. And there's the whole, that's that's human life here. You have the people that were like, I won't hurt a fly, to people who are like, I'll hurt anyone other than, to save myself. And that's the realm. And that's because we're disconnected from source. And the closer you are to source, the more in alignment we're going to be with understanding that we're all one. And you're not going to want to hurt a fly, honestly, because it's life and it's, we're all connected. So with that, with being able to see into people's souls, and it's like I started feeling the struggle. And um and then I realized, like, the veil, everyone talks about the veil. You've heard about the veil, right?
I've heard about the. Mhm.
And I mean, of course, we've all heard about it, but I wondered, like, what is the veil? Is veil something that's just covering the whole earth? You
Mhm.
know? Um, and is this veil, are we trapped into this earth? And is this 3D life? Is this actually hell? Was the question that came to me in my download. I was like, wait, it feels awful. It feels awful seeing people struggle, seeing their soul struggle. You know what I mean? Like, what is this realm actually? Is the question that came up one morning, because I was like, we know that we need to be close to source to to have peace and joy and all those things, but why is it so hard, to be there, to close to source, to be able to hear from him? Why is it so hard to stay there? You know what I mean? And and that's where I was thinking, like, is earth hell? You know what I mean? Like, are we all struggling to get out of these circumstances? And
So is
so,
that the download that came to you, that question?
yeah, well, the download, I'd have to look at my notes. The download I got the first day, I woke up on that question, like, whoa, wait a minute. We're all struggling. We're all different souls. We're all like, and it gave me empathy and more empathy and more grace for everyone. Just
Uh,
realizing, like, you can see the soul in people. I could think of someone and just read their energy and read their soul and see, like, what their struggle is. And I could see people individually with their struggle. Um, and I felt a little bit like I woke up and I was like, ooh, I'm not liking this feeling. Like, this is not good. I feel like we're possibly trapped. So are we in hell? So I wrote it out. I was writing my download and then I wrote out the question, is earth hell? And then I thought about the Bible, where it talks about um what caused the love of money is the source of all evil. You know what I mean? And then I really thought about that.
that phrase has been coming to me a lot in the last few days.
Really?
Money, the phrase is money is the source of all evil. That keeps coming up in my brain. I mean, it just, it's like you have, I don't hear a voice. It just, um, I don't know how to describe it. It just happens in my mind. You know what I mean?
Right. It's downloading in you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
a download. Yeah.
money is the source, is the root of all evil.
The
Is
root of all evil. Yeah. So money is an energy, but it's, you know what I mean? But so it's not really that money is, it's more like the love of money is the root of all evil. And if you think about this life on this planet right now, our God isn't God. Our God literally is money. Everything is run. This energy of money is running this planet. And
Mhm.
the wars are based on the
Yeah,
love of money, the worship of money. I can't think of a country or person that, and you almost, and so that's where it felt trapping too, because you're like, okay, well, if the love of money, but we are run by and with money,
yeah.
then are we in hell? You know what I mean? It's because if it's the root of all evil, and it's so much evil in this world because we love money probably more than God. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
immigrants are being shipped out because, you know, we're treating people horrible and always have because of money. Not
There's a,
because of the not because of money, because of the love of money. Right.
right, right. And the
So
wars you were talking about, it's about the love of money, and
mhm,
wars are about uh, grabbing more geography, more land, and that land supposedly has is filled with certain minerals and other natural things that are of value that have been
yeah,
valued. Yeah.
yeah,
So again, it all goes back to the love of money and sort of and greed. If I would, put it out there, greed, wanting more of it
yeah.
and fighting
Which is
back
what
to
an
get it.
extension of the money. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
the rulers, there's plenty of people that have more than enough, more than they can ever spend in a day, and we have more poverty than necessary. There's
yeah.
multiple people on this earth that could cure poverty by themselves. They could feed the world by themselves, you know, which is, you know, is sad. So with, so I wrote out my question after, you know, seeing all of that. I wouldn't say it was like a download. It was more like it was a download. It was like an awareness. It was seeing it. And then I felt sad. And then what came to me was my question was, how do we get out of this? Like, where's new earth? Are we in hell? Where's heaven type thing? So that's where the download of the veil that we hear so much about is within us. And it's our ego. The
Oh,
veil that we have that blocks us from seeing truth, from that disconnects us, is our ego. And our ego is not something we create ourselves. You know, our ego is influenced by the world, the 3D world. You know, it's influenced by our leaders. It's influenced in our religious leaders, our government leaders, our parents, our neighbors. It creates our ego and our persona
mm,
to survive in this world, right? But the ego is not attached to source. You know, the ego is separate from our soul. So it's our soul that attaches to source, but our ego is attached to earth, you know,
oh,
to, I don't even say earth really, because earth is created by source. Our ego's attached to our our survival, you know, it is actually our survival means and it's fear based.
and it's fear based. Ah, yeah, yeah,
So, and I don't mean ego where like just people that say, oh, I'm the best at this, you know,
right,
because whether you say you're the best, the worst, medium, okay, it's still ego speaking because truth is we're part of God. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We're a part of God.
Oh,
Um,
so then lifting the veil is like getting rid of ego. Is is that what they?
yeah.
Is that what?
Yes. And I know that plenty of people know this. You know, this is just a new download for me. I know plenty of people know this. And that's why I think it's called Dark Night of the Soul or the Death of the Ego.
Yeah.
Um, closer to God. So we like to be like, oh, an ego's okay. It's just what we need to survive here. It is what we use to survive this earth, but it's not what's needed. That's the trick of the ego. The ego doesn't want to go. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
But the death of the ego is we need to, it's the death of the ego that brings us closer to source. Because the more we get rid of the ego, we see the truth and the light. So my download for that was the ego is the veil. So is life
uh,
on earth hell? It's heaven and hell. And that's what Jesus said. He said, don't look for heaven outside of us. It's within you.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's all a perception. So as people are awakening and having a death to the ego, which is ultimately within itself killing itself because we have so many awakening. The ego, we have so many people so strong in their ego, like with Trump and the administration, and that's going around the world that it's so bad that individually people are looking at it and being like they're checking themselves. They're like, this is not okay, right?
right, right, right.
I
Yeah,
think you know, we can compare the Trump administration to Hitler, but we can't compare the society because the society, as you can see on our social media, is fighting back. I think every single day I've seen how a city has fought back against ICE and has actually stopped them in their tracks and gotten rid of them. I was like, it's so beautiful to see that.
it is.
Yeah.
Right. And it's inspiring to me because
Yeah.
I guess I have these conflicting feelings about what I see going on in the world, and I just thought people were just giving up. You know, I didn't see. I mean, I do I guess it's sporadic, hear about cities fighting back and or even school districts. I know even here in LA, there was I think the biggest school district here refused to allow ICE to come into the building, you know. So I did hear about that, but it's so sporadic. It's like, you don't connect all of the dots where that's concerned. And for the most part, I'm just hearing about people acquiescing. It's like, what can I do?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, I mean, it's been so much that we have been in that. I started to get there too. I think last week didn't pay attention to the news at all. So this week I've been back on it and I'm happy to see what I'm seeing about people fighting back and gathering and stuff like that. So and that is because more and more people are waking up to like the
Yeah,
system's wrong. We're done. We're People are tired of it. The system's wrong. There's going to be a lot of people more than less so willing to, open up to the truth and the truth. And it's going to dispel a lot of religious beliefs, you know? Um, and there's so much information online now, like you can do the research.
yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying that a lot of the downloads that you've had recently have been sort of, I don't know if I should use the word confirmed or verified by other spiritual leaders out in the ecosystem.
So, so yeah, and that's always been for me. That's my agreement with source, with God, is that when I hear something, I don't um take it as fact or anything. I take it as because when you get a download, it still has to go through our ego. We still do have the ego. So when I hear a download, I can relate it to something going on in my life. But
Mhm.
I don't know how much of that is coming from source. It's coming from source, but it's going through my ego, right? So as much as I want to let go of my ego and get rid of it, it's still there. I'm working on it, you know what I mean? But it's still there. So I don't say anything about my downloads until I see, for me, I like to see three different confirmations. And it's normally like comes through. other people. So
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. And source is kind of like my agreement. So I'll turn on the TV, and as someone comes up that I normally watch, or even someone brand new, like the guy I sent you, and he's all of a sudden talking about the same thing I had in the download, then I'm like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that happened every day this week, honestly.
That is so that's inspiring and very encouraging. I mean, the reason we wanted to do these talks is to bring that out more, right?
Right,
People who have the same kind of are on the same path of discovery or odyssey of discovery where spirituality is concerned, because we think there are more of those folks than there are of other folks. And
right. And
to hear that there's, the downloads that you're getting are being confirmed by several, other people who have their own followers, who have their own, sort of networks. That's very inspiring. So that there's an alignment in another way, where this spiritual odyssey is concerned. And with all of that coming out, to me, I'm hoping it's going to overtake the dark side and bring that light that we so desire, and I know is there.
yeah,
Bring light so that it becomes the dominant. That's what we experience. And
yeah,
so yeah.
yes. Oh, speaking of the light, because this was in one of the downloads, I did get a vision with it. And what it said was when we merge the soul and the spirit, also the yin and the yang, our inner division, our soul and our spirit, or yin and yang, or masculine, feminine, whatever you want to call it, when we merge it in alignment,
Mm,
then that's what like kind of dispels the ego and allows the light of our heart. So the vision I had was so beautiful. Um, it was just like earth, just but really, really light, with like the light coming through people.
mhm,
As opposed to, and I can see the difference where it's kind of like here's this earth where it's like the light coming through people and it's very bright. And then in contrast, the heaviness of old earth, of people in their ego, of everything that we're going through, you know what I mean? Of the wars and um all the sadness and stuff like that. So, and illness and stuff is supposed to go away in new earth, which, oh my gosh, I'm going through perimenopause and I'm having so many issues in my body right now. I'm like, please, can I get into 5D? Can we cure my body?
oh yes. Oh,
when when can I completely enter 5D? Yeah. I think we're all in the 1 foot in, 1 foot out phase, but I think it's gonna come sooner than later.
that's very inspiring. It really is. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you, and if this came up in your downloads, is like, how do you get rid of this ego? How do we lift that veil? How do we, how do we, but you're talking,
That's what meditating, yeah, that's what your spiritual practice is for. Because when you're meditating, um, it's kind of like we don't get rid of it. It's when you go in meditation, you say quiet your mind, but you really can't quiet your mind. Your mind never quiets. But
yeah,
you 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 rest. You tell God, I'm allowing you to come in. And when they say this is why it's best to do it early in the morning and right before sleep, because your mind isn't as active anyway. And um, like it's the downloads that change me. It's not like I can't say, oh, I'm going to be nice today, or I'm going to have more grace for people. Once that information hits me, like the grace that I got for people, even for the worst of the worst, like I can see, like, oh, their souls just struggling. It's just like Jesus says, forgive them, Father, because they know not what they do. It's just like you fully understand that we're all in this. We are really all in this together, just at different levels of escaping it in a sense. The
Yeah.
beautiful thing is the escape is not like we have to die, we have to leave this planet. No, it's within us. It's but it's not alone. It's like source is here. Source never leaves. We just have the ego in the way. So you spend your time in meditation and you ask for the help. And that little bit of information that you get as it integrates in you, it changes you. And the more you get that, the more the ego is going to be pushed aside.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, and the more you practice these things, sitting quietly, right? The
Hmm.
easier it'll come, I would think. And
Hmm.
um, and yes, and then you can eventually um, experience a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and you have to be open to it because I heard a couple of weeks ago, like in meditation, be open to being wrong.
Hmm.
Even about Trump, be open to being wrong. Be open to it's still part of the plan. You know, yeah, I don't want it's not my plan. When Trump won the election, I remember I was in the shower. I download a lot in the shower, and I got in the shower and I was mad at God, and he reminded me in the download like this. Remember, I told you Earth was going to collapse. The system now was going to collapse, and so I can be told that. You can
Yeah.
be told that, but you don't know what that entails. You
Right.
know, and that particular download, he told me I got to tear down the old home before building the new home.
Hmm.
So ultimately, that's what's happening, right? Like it's tearing down, but tearing down is not fun.
No, that's for sure. It's not.
Cool, I mean, it's ugly and
And it's scary because you don't know what's coming next, you
it's so
know?
scary. It is scary. So the important thing, I almost forgot about this. This just came to me was a year ago when I had these initial downloads. It said frequently when it starts to happen, focus on the light. Do not focus on the darkness. Do not focus on the chaos. That's what said specifically. Don't focus on the chaos. Look for the light. Focus on the light. If you focus on the chaos, it's going to cause more. You're going to get caught up in it. Focus on the light. It's there. It's going to be there. So I have definitely forgot about these messages I got because I was definitely focused on the chaos. I'm trying to fight the chaos, but you can't fight chaos with chaos. You can't
Yeah.
fight hate with hate, you know what I mean? So I've been hearing lately, like, fight it with love, fight it with love. Love overcomes everything. Of course, we don't give love enough credit. But Jesus has said love overcomes everything. God has said love overcomes everything with the focus on the light. And for spiritual people waking to spirituality, we hear that we have to ascend up to higher energies, and that's in love. Love is the highest, right? So we have to somehow fight the chaos or dissolve the chaos with
Yeah.
love. And
Yeah.
the more that more people get in the action of love, and the action of love isn't just sitting there and being like, the action of love is those people standing up for immigrants in the street telling ICE to get out. That's action of love. You know what I mean? And that created like so much love. Like I just saw it on TikTok before coming on, and it made me so happy. And it made, you know what I mean? And so that's energy that's spreading. So
That's a hopeful message. And I truly, truly believe that that is the solution. It's spreading the love and making sure that your attention is on love actions and not on that dark side, not on the chaos, not on the whatever.
right.
So, and it's and all of what we're talking about today is consistent with what I've believed, even maybe even before agape, but certainly with agape, that everything I think we talked about this. There's no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. And, the things that are happening now is like you were saying, is connected to the destruction of the old earth. And that's what, and so, and the reason it has to be destructed or deconstructed, whatever the word is, is so the new earth within the light can emerge. So that's the reason we're in this. Um, but to stay focused on the light, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, what was I going to say to you? Talk to you, ask you about with relation to the downloads and I guess it was just making a comment that um, you know, and this is coming from the belief system that I have adopted through agape, that Christ is the example and that we have to become Christ-like, where we're dissolving that ego. And ego, you came up with a phrase of what ego, like using
Edging God out. I
edging
didn't
God.
come up with it. Someone else did. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, if we can become Christ-like and, being the example where ego was not part of him, like it really wasn't. And be, able to edge, God, that ego is edging God out. So if we can just uh, be more Christ-like and go into the Christ consciousness or the God consciousness, that's how the new earth begins to surface, begins
Yeah.
to, yeah. So all of those things that I was beginning to think about as I was, growing in my spirituality. I mean, it's now sort of crystallizing. You know what I mean? It's coming together. It's making sense.
Yeah.
Like, these they were maybe disparate kind of concepts, but I got them, and I felt that they were legitimate. But now it's like really coming together, like the puzzle pieces that we talked about before. This
Yeah.
really formulate into this new way of being and behaving and treating each other. So that's really hopeful and I think very inspirational for us going forward. It's ugly now, but it's not always going to be that way.
It's not.
A lot more of us, I think, out there than the darker side. And I guess I have to learn to be more, to give more grace. I mean, I haven't, like it's trying to stay away from the news as much as I can, although I go in and out and I see news as we said, I think maybe last week last time we talked, is a prayer request. Like this is what we need to pray for, or these are the circumstances that are out there that we need to try to help dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
In a loving way. But I have a hard time, I really struggle with giving grace to folks who can come on, and who, I guess who are elected officials. This is one of the peaks that I had of the news. In a town hall, talking about cutting away Medicaid, I think it was, and the pushback that they got from their constituents is that this is going to kill people. People are going to die because they won't have access to the health care that they need. And then the politician said, oh, people die all this, words to the effect of, people die all the time, or we're all going to die, or something like that. Total, lack of empathy, lack of compassion, lack of even acknowledging the fact that there will be loss of life. It was like, oh, that's just what is the term that they use? Um, Collateral damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's going to happen. It's expected to happen. So where is your Christianity? Where is that compassion from a Christian person? So that's what I have to work on in terms of giving grace. Like I didn't give grace to that person who said that.
No, 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 no. And it's not,
Saying, do you know that you've got
no,
people, audience that are hearing you? You got cameras and microphones on, and you're going to say something like that. How callous can you be?
right. It's because he's completely in the ego. So
Oh,
he's completely, they're so separated from source. They're completely in the ego. They're in the
and think
mistake.
that they're in the
And
right.
so they don't have empathy. They don't have love, you know? And it's and when I say I give grace for the soul in that being, in that avatar. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Soul is kind of like,
So,
oh,
so, so you had to dig deeper into that person to find that
yes,
soul.
yes. Like I can look into the soul and see what is causing that see, I don't even know who you're talking about, but I heard this, but I can, as a reader, as a psychic reader, I can feel that person's pain. I can see the walls. I can see like child abuse. I can see like different things that's causing them to be that way because it's the ego's way of protecting that person. I didn't say I wanted this ability. I didn't want it, you know what I mean? It's the fact that I decided to accept my gift and start doing readings and stuff like that. And so it keeps growing.
That's
And
a good.
as I look at people, I see their soul more. I
Yeah,
see their energy. I see their past. I didn't necessarily say I want it, but that does, as a result, make me have grace for the situation. And then I can pray for that person.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm just saying that I haven't developed spiritually to that point, and that's
Right.
I, I'd like to aspire to that. I'd like to get there, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Because I was outraged at the response
Oh,
that this.
yeah. And it's okay to be outraged by it. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
It's
talk.
fine to be outraged by it.
Yeah. But it's like, so I have got to get to a place where I can see that person's soul and see the hurt that caused them to be, to take on the attitudes that they have. And not only the attitudes, but now the sort of practices that they're putting in place as a result of the hurts that they've I guess experienced themselves. And and the things that they're doing that they see as okay. So yeah, I've got some spiritual growth to do. And I am open to that. And I have to sit with myself to really, get to the point where I am open, I'm expressing it, to the higher power that this is where I want to be. I want to be open to be able to see the soul of a person and be able to give them the grace that they're obviously in need of. Uh, so, wow, this has been fascinating. This is a fascinating conversation. And to know that these are the kind of conversations that are going on in the circles of folks who are also on this odyssey of spiritual nurturing, I would say, or spiritual development, so that there's a whole, but we can all join together and bring that light to the world so that we can have this new earth. As uncomfortable as it is now, it'll get better.
It's getting better. It's on the path. It's in the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any,
I
any,
wish I could show the beauty that I saw in the vision.
oh, yeah.
It was pretty cool. So
Really?
it's there. Yeah.
Do you do any painting? No, you don't do any painting. Do you do any painting? You
Can't
probably,
paint. Who knows? Maybe I should try to paint. I don't know.
it's in you. That's one of the gifts that maybe you've
I
got.
don't know. I've never been good at art. I mean,
Hmm.
I do those well, we're getting off the subject, but I do love doing those like the those wine and paint nights, and I'm always quite surprised what my painting looks like. And the beauty, okay, so that this is beautiful because we're all watching one artist paint and they're giving us instructions and everyone's following it and everyone's painting comes out different.
Isn't that interesting?
It's
Mhm.
so amazing. It's so beautiful and in its own self, each painting's beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that that was beautiful to me because even though, like I said, with that vision of everyone's heart open and this light coming out, I was like, well, where's if we're all just connected, this was in my thought process. If we're all just connected to Christ, what's going to make us different? But so that was I felt like an answer for myself was like we're still individual,
Still
you
individual.
know, like we're going to be individual expressions of the source of God, but we just don't have to be individual expressions of ego. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's going to be beautiful. It's still going to be, we're still going to be different and special in our own ways, but with the heart open and with light and love, as opposed to with all the density of, you know, the ego and hate and
Right.
sadness, stuff like that. So that is our beautiful vision for the day.
And on that note, what let's invite folks who are experiencing this to make your comments on what you've heard, anything that stood out for you, anything that you recognize, you know, that resonated with you. Um, Make your comments in the space below this video, and then subscribe because we're trying to drop these new um, conversations, each new conversation weekly. And as we drop them, as we upload them, whatever the word is, that you will be notified whenever a new installment is uploaded. So, and that comes when you become a subscriber. So we hope that we can hear from you with your comments and that you will subscribe and you can hear more conversations between me and Tiffany and other folks who are uh, joining us on this odyssey that we have of nurturing spirituality. So we'll see you next time. Until then, I'm still Gwen Flynn.
I'm Tiffany Lee. Have a good week.
Have a great week.